People have been burning Qurans again, and this has raised the issue of blasphemy laws yet again. A few months ago, you may have remembered an independent MP raised this in the Houses of Parliament, and Keir Starmer didn't knock it out of the park and stamp on it, and appeared to kind of let it slide a little. I think on this topic, there needs to be very clear direction provided by our politicians as to what the law is and what the requirement of citizens are relating to this type of thing, relating to blasphemy laws. Now, I've got a clip here, well, a couple of clips actually. The first is with Katie Lamb. I really do like Katie Lamb. She seems to be hitting all the right notes at the moment. And I thought this interaction was particularly priceless. When you're watching this, have a look at Jess Phillips's face when Yvette Cooper's providing the answer. I think it's great.
Shadow Minister Katie Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In fighting terrorism, the Security Minister has rightly said Islamism is the foremost threat we face. Its danger lies not just in physical violence, but in the intolerance it embodies and the intimidation it relies upon. So will the Home Secretary give a clear answer to this? Should it be a criminal offence to desecrate a Quran or any holy text? Yes or no?
Well, we are clear that the primary domestic terrorist threat comes from Islamist terrorism at 3/4 of the MI5 caseload and 64% of those in custody for terrorism-connected offences. That is followed by extreme right-wing terrorism, which also covers around 1/4 of the MI5 caseload, and we already have a framework of legislation in place to ensure that we can deal with the kinds of threats to our cohesion as well as to our communities and the kinds of dangerous threats that we face.
So Katie Lamb asks the question, Yvette Cooper stands up to provide a reasoned and rational answer, all well and good. But Jess Phillips's face is priceless. She's desperate to show all of the Muslims from her constituency that she doesn't understand a thing about why this is important. Every time this issue comes up and Jess Phillips is in the centre of the camera, that's the face she pulls, and I'll put it on here for you just as a little reminder. And this is what I would term the politics of children. So if you pop a child into the Houses of Parliament and you ask them to sit there, that's the type of face they would pull, particularly if you're threatening them with losing their seat at the next general election, which is definitely going to happen for Jess Phillips. It doesn't matter how many faces Jess pulls, it's not going to matter. Not only is she going to lose her seat, but she'll forever be remembered as the woman who betrayed all of the small children who were abused by grooming gangs. I could have put other videos on from her performance this week in the Houses of Parliament where she lost her temper talking to people, but I'm not really going to give her that level of airtime. I just think, in general, Jess Phillips is a sellout. She knows she's sold out, and what's even worse, she's not even going to get to keep her seat next time anyway. So boo-hoo to Jess Phillips. Now here's another clip I've got for you with Robert Jenrick, how he's outlining a couple of points about blasphemy laws and his take on it.
Earlier this year, I raised the case of a man who'd been arrested after a video emerged of him burning a Quran. Now here's an update. I've got hold of a copy of the legal proceedings against him, and he's just been charged with harassment, alarm or distress against the religious institution of Islam. Now, his lawyer says that it's a defective charge, it doesn't reflect the law, and that it's tantamount to blasphemy. Now, burning a Quran, like any religious text, is something that some people find very offensive, and few people would condone. But that's not the point. There are many things in our society that people find offensive, but that doesn't make them criminal. Parliament abolished blasphemy laws almost 20 years ago, and they were right to do so. It's not for the CPS or the courts to create a blasphemy law in this country by the back door.
Now, you may have your own views on blasphemy laws and your own interpretation of how things should go and what you should be permitted to do in a normal civilized society. So why is the ability to offend so important in a society that is civilized, that respects people, and also has free speech at the cornerstone of how people interact with each other? Why is it important? Well, it's important for this reason. Ideas generally have to be thought about and debated. Good ideas, bad ideas, clever ideas, stupid ideas, they all have to be brought out into the public square. And the point of being able to voice what you want to say is that you have a voice and your voice is important. And when you talk to other people in a civilized society, you get to talk about these issues. And in effect, what happens? People come to a general consensus of opinion where you can actually say, okay, so this is what I think, that's what you think, let's come together and then let's all decide on the best way forward for our civilizations respectively. And this is why in a cohesive society the ability to offend people is extremely important. And when you start introducing ridiculous things like blasphemy laws, what you say is, no matter what happens, you can't talk about that topic. Now, on blasphemy laws, I'm very casual and relaxed because I can see what's coming down the pipe about this. The government, the Labour government, and their MPs are running scared because they know that they're going to lose a ton of their seats to potentially independent candidates or Muslim candidates in their areas. Not huge amounts, but enough to worry the MPs. So they're pandering a little to the Muslim vote at the moment. Politicians want to keep their jobs like the rest of us. I'm not giving them a let off for that, but you can at least understand the human nature surrounding that. But regardless of anything else, even when they do bring in these blasphemy laws, it's going to be a little bit of a hoot, because what they're going to have to do is apply all of these laws across all religions. They're going to tie themselves up in knots, and I think it's going to be quite funny, because any law that's created can be taken away. But as we found out recently with the biological transgender issue, eventually it takes a little bit of time for our society to get it right, but in the West we uphold law and order ultimately at the end of the day. And no matter what laws get passed, at some point sanity will be restored. But I think it's going to be a bumpy ride up till that moment. I certainly don't want blasphemy laws, and I hope that they aren't enacted in the UK, because I think it would be a very, very bad thing and an embarrassing thing. Don't forget, the United Kingdom at the moment, we're becoming a laughingstock amongst Western nations, particularly America. It's we've kind of fallen off the cultural map a little bit, because we're viewed as a bit of an odd case, arresting people for Facebook posts, and then blasphemy laws, and all of this is going on. We're becoming a bit of a laughingstock as a result of all of this. But regardless of what happens, even if they try to instigate a blasphemy law, it's going to blow up in their face, and I'll be there laughing when it does. But I certainly don't want a blasphemy law. Doesn't it show how far the rot has spread? Doesn't it just show how far we've sunk in 2025 talking about blasphemy? I mean, what a ridiculous circus. Unbelievable. Thanks very much for your time.